folks, good evening. We'll get started. If you're just coming in, there are some seats up here to my left, or you can stand off to the corners or find an open seat towards the back. Welcome to Politics and Prose. Thank you all for being here. I'm Mike Giarratano, and so I want to start just by welcoming you and saying thanks for being here. On behalf of our new owners, Bradley Graham and Lissa Muscatine, and the staff here, just a collective thanks for supporting the bookstore and supporting the event series here. Tonight being here for Lisa Randall and her second book, Knocking on Heaven's Door. So we're excited to have her here to talk about this book. So before we begin, if you're new here, welcome, and I'll just quickly go over the format. What's going to happen, Lisa is going to present her book. She'll talk about her book using some visuals as well. What we're going to do is leave the lights up because we're recording. So if you do want to kind of get to the corners, you'll have a pretty good view of it. But the talk will go about 45 minutes or so. We'll have a little time for Q&A from you, of course. We look forward to your input. Because we're recording, as I said, we're going to take questions from our audience microphone here in the middle aisle. So if you can get to that, that would be a help, and we'll field questions from there. Afterwards, we'll have a book signing up here. Lisa will sign books. Both of her books, Knocking on Heaven's Door and Warped Passages, are available in the front of the store. So that's how it will go. It's always a good time to silence cell phones too, and that's how we'll go. So again, really above all, just want to say thanks. This is a nice turnout and a great crowd, and so welcome to Politics and Prose, and welcome to Lisa Randall. As I said, her new book is Knocking on Heaven's Door: How Physics and Scientific Thinking Illuminate the Universe in the Modern World. Lisa is a professor of theoretical physics at Harvard University. And is a leading theoretical physicist and expert on particle physics, string theory, and cosmology. She is one of the most highly cited and influential theoretical physicists. She has appeared in Discover, The Economist, Newsweek, Scientific American, among many others, many other publications. She has been one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people. As I said, Knocking on Heaven's Door is her second book. Her first book, Warped Passages, is about the mysteries of the universe's hidden dimensions. Knocking on Heaven's Door is about scientific research today, specifically at the Large Hadron Collider, and the author's own investigations into elementary particles, into string theory and cosmology, into modern physics, from the core knowledge, the smallest objects, to the outer boundaries, the larger outer threshold beyond understanding. This is her book to present, and we're happy that she's here to do that. And again, thanks to you for being here. Please help me welcome to Politics and Prose, Lisa Randall. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So first of all, I want to make clear that I don't necessarily see this book as just a book about the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. I really think it's a book about the nature of science. I mean, the Large Hadron Collider and the physics I do is an example of the kind of science that I want to talk about. But really what I'm trying to do is explain a little bit more what are the elements of thinking that go into science. That's not to say I don't spend a lot of time talking about the Large Hadron Collider and the kind of science going on there, as well as what's going on in cosmology and dark matter searches, for example. But there's a lot of more general elements. And it was funny because I actually haven't been to Politics and Prose before, and I thought, am I supposed to give a political talk? And I mean, I do speak in prose, so that part I had covered. But really, I do think even in that sense, I just think it's really important for people quite generally to start thinking a little bit more scientifically and to understand really what it means in terms of what the role uncertainty plays, in terms of what it means to be right and wrong, in terms of the role creativity plays in what we do, in terms of a lot of things that we don't often associate with science. We often think of it as just something where we sort of plug something in and get the answer. But there's a lot more going on than that. And when science is actually happening, there's a lot more back and forth that's going on. And understanding the role of uncertainty is really important, as are many other aspects of what I'm going to talk about. But because it's only a short talk, and we don't have time to do the entire book, I actually have two different talks that I've been giving, or that I'm going to be giving. One is more about the Large Hadron Collider and the physics happening there. But another is about one of the concepts that's really important in physics, and that is the concept of scale. And so I'm going to begin the talk by talking about scale. And in the process, we'll see some of the exciting physics along the way. But keep in mind that really what I want to get across is why thinking in terms of scale is important, not just for physics, but for all of science, and really quite more generally. So with that, I will actually begin the actual talk. And again, thank you for having me here. So the title is Knocking on Heaven's Door. I think my friends polled, or enemies polled, 9 out of 10 people like the title. So some of the people think that I'm trying to jump up. But really what I wanted to get across with the title is really what we're doing. I wanted a way to convey the fact that we sort of have this very established base of knowledge, but we're really trying to go beyond it. We're trying to probe those edges. So we're trying to get beyond that, and that's what science is doing. It's always trying to get a little bit beyond. So that's really what I had in mind. So when I say how physics and scientific thinking illuminate the universe and the modern world, I have in mind just that it's really both physics that's relevant, of course, for understanding the nature of our universe, but scientific thinking, it has much more broader applications, and it's worth for people understanding. So I'm just going to begin with a quote from a song of Suzanne Vega. What's so small to you is so large to me. Last things I do, I will make you see. So I guess that's the goal of my talk. So part of what I'm talking about is why these very small objects that we'll see get studied in the kind of physics I do, I'm a particle physicist primarily, why those objects are relevant to understanding the nature of the world, but also why focusing on small issues can sometimes just illuminate some bigger thing, and how to separate out those two. So I'm going to just start with a nice photograph someone gave me, nice photograph from Paris, as you might have guessed. And you can tell because it has a lot of iconic Paris features. It has the Eiffel Tower in the background. It has a kiosk with an affiche on it, advertising performance. And it has, unlike midnight in Paris, it actually has cars in the street, which is very typical. So it's kind of a typical Paris scene. So what do I want to get across here? Well, the thing I want to get across is what you see depends on how you look at things, what resolution you have, what scale you choose to focus on. So if you think about the Eiffel Tower, you can look at it from very far away, in which case, if you just had a map of France, you'd hardly notice it was there. You clearly that would not be a way to know about the Eiffel Tower. You wouldn't know of its existence. In the same way, there's many aspects of physics that we don't know about until we really zoom into that scale. And of course, I could look very close, and then I would see nothing that conveys the sort of beauty and elegance of the entire Eiffel Tower. I would see the grid of the ironwork. I'd be able to study the detailed structure. But if I wanted to study the Eiffel Tower, there's an appropriate scale for that. And when I use that appropriate scale, I don't necessarily want to take into account all the little details. I mean, of course, I could zoom in even closer into that iron and look at atoms and molecules, but that's not relevant. That's not what I'm thinking of when I think of the Eiffel Tower. I'm thinking in a particular scale. Okay. But what I really wanted you to see in that slide, which is, of course, much more important, is that if you zoomed in on the affiche, you would see my name on it. So what I'm going to spend the talk doing is getting you to the point of understanding how my name, I'm a particle physicist, ended up on an affiche in Paris. It's washed out by the lights, but if you look right here, that's my name, Lisa Randall. Okay. So we'll come back to that at the end of the talk. But for now, let's just think about scale, because I think it's a really important concept. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to focus on this was when I talked about warp passages. I think a lot of people, even those who are extremely interested in the kind of science I do, I think there's kind of a misconception sometimes about how does this relate to the kinds of things we see. There's sort of these exotic ideas of extra dimension, but how can there be a continuous transition from these very exotic ideas that apply, say, at very tiny scales, and what we see on human scales? And our intuition is, of course, guided by what we see on human scales. When we think of other types of physics, a lot of people think it's almost magical or it's not real because it's not what they see in their daily lives. But of course, anyone who's seen an optical illusion knows that you can't always trust your eyes. In fact, what you can trust are things that you can measure and record